What's up? How's everyone doing? I hope everyone had a good week off. Well, I don't know if you had a week off or if you had any time off. Hopefully, you had a good last 2 weeks because I haven't seen you for a little while now. All right. Hopefully, the stream is working like it should. It kind of should have probably paid more attention to it. Oh boy, I just got a warning that Chrome is refreshing now. So hopefully this works out okay. That's not great. Maybe I don't like Snap. All right. So I hope everyone had a good week. 2 weeks. I'm happy to be back. And let's jump into the news. Now, this week, or for any of you that haven't been here before, we're going to talk security. We're going to talk public clouds. Then we're going to talk about some general news. And then at the end of this episode, we're going over open source and maybe some not some open source tools to help you learn. So right now, the economy is rough. And one of the best ways to deal with a rough economy is to become the best that you can be. And that's one of the things that I can help with, at least. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to cover a bunch of open source projects as well as websites that are out there for your education and learning. And so hopefully you can take some of those. And if you are unfortunately laid off or trying to find another job, you might be able to level up some of your skills. So that's what we're going to do. So let's jump into... How are you, Russell? Let's jump into the security, and then we'll kind of go on. And this episode might be just a little bit longer. Now, one thing that I'm going to do, and because I have been requested this, I'm going to actually make videos on these resources as well. It's probably going to come out in January, as I'll make an actual video on it, and I'll kind of give my top recommendations. Maybe a little bit more focused. Like if you're looking to do this or level up your skill in system design, these are the repositories. And today we're just going to go over the top ones that I found as well as some of the ones that you all recommended. All right. Hopefully the audio and everything sounds good. I could bring this a little bit closer. And let's jump into it. I've been working on something. I didn't get it done. I had some time off and I worked really hard on it, and there was a bunch of problems, and I thought it was going to look really cool, but now I have decided that it looks really dumb. I'll still show it to you all, maybe next week. You'll see what I mean. It looks kind of stupid. I think I have built the worst looking computer of all times. All right, so let's see. Ransom EXX ransomware upgrades to Rust programming language. So you know that it's a good language when when ransomware starts using it. It's good for security, right? Okay, so moving on. One of a bigger note here is there's actually, if you do run Exchange servers, there is a proof of concept exploit for the two CVEs, these two CVEs. So you can go ahead and check those CVEs out. But if you haven't, you need to patch. It is patchable. They have released patches for these. But there is exploited code out there, or code to exploit it. So definitely get on to patching if you haven't. You should try to automatically always patch. Just try to do that. Russian software disguised as American finds its way into U.S. Army CDC apps. That's kind of terrifying. You should read this if you're wanting to. But yeah, it was... But yeah, it was kind of a company that was kind of disguising itself as an American company. And anyways, it was kind of interesting. Open source software versus the proposed Cybersecurity Resilience Act. So this I found as a really interesting article. I know some of us on the Discord have been talking about ways we can solve some of open source's issues. And this kind of This is kind of right in line with that. So some of the problems that large companies are having using open source in a secure way. So this says cyber resilience. Why is it in the security? Well, it's all about securing your pipeline and who develops the code. You know, you're developing some code, but it's probably using a bunch of open source projects. And how is that secured? How is the pipeline? How is the developers vetted? How is all of that done? And that's it's a big problem, and it's a problem that needs to be solved. It's actually one that I'm kind of interested in solving at this point, because I think that it can be a win-win for everybody. It can be a win for the companies to get that security and compliance that they need, and it can be a win for the open source as well, where it's something that can actually give them a way to make a living off of their open source code. So hopefully you'll see more from me on that maybe in the early next year. U.S. federal network was hacked, so that's terrifying. So these were some Iranian APT. APT is the group. Hackers launched an attack on the Federal Civilian Exchange Branch with a Log4Shell vulnerability. This is the only reason I brought this one up was just this right here, is that this was done with a very old vulnerability. This is a year old, right? Yeah, it was a year old. It was last Christmas when everybody was like patching. This is why it's so important to patch. Oh no, this is the Log4Shell, but this is still like a couple months old. If you follow this, you know about the Log4Shell, not the Log4j, which was a vulnerability. So anyways, it's been patched, and this is why it's so important to have really as automated patching as you can get, and the ability to do it quickly, because these CVEs come in, 2021. It's a while ago. You need to be patched, because what they're going to do is they're just going to crawl the networks looking for an unpatched server. This was a good read, and I'll actually leave a link to this one in the description if you guys want to read it. If you guys like math, this was kind of a fun math. Everyone should be running prod on Arch Linux. All right. Mathematical theorem used to crack U.S. government encryption algorithm. I found this to be an enjoyable read. If you're into security, if you're into encryption, this is kind of fun. So yeah. Rubber Cable, you're asking what the Federal Civilian Executive Branch is? I have absolutely no idea. I have none. No ideas for you. Don't know what it is. You're right. It could be just like sanitation or something. Who knows? Although I would hate for our sanitation systems to get hacked, because that could actually cause a lot of chaos. Anyways, this was a fun read. If you're into it, I definitely recommend it. I will leave a link. And that's really it for security. There wasn't a whole lot. There was a couple little things, like some of the hacks. I feel like I was missing one big thing when I came today and was like compiling all of my notes that I had collected. I feel like there was one missing. So if you know of one that's missing, that was a pretty big deal. It could have been that it was another week. And so sometimes that's the case. And it's been 2 weeks. So like, it's a little hard for me to remember exactly what was covered last week. But yeah. So anyways, definitely let me know. I know that you guys hold me accountable if I miss something. So let me know. And then we'll move on to our clouds. Now, we have the 4 major cloud providers here, and that's right, because not DigitalOcean at all. Cloudflare, I'm sorry, Cloudflare, for insulting you. It was kind of at it again with another just slew of releases and information that they were doing. And so we're going to cover some of the stuff that they did. So yeah. But let's jump with Azure first. I try to mix it up because you guys think that I get biased if I start with the same one. It's just out of habit because of how I have the links ordered, not out of bias for any one of the clouds. Really, I say use the cloud that fits your needs the best or cheapest, or whatever your needs are, use that cloud. So really, it's not a bias out of my part, but I do try to switch it up so I don't appear biased. I am biased, though. Cloudflare all the way. all the way. All right, so here we have Azure. I left this up. There was a couple things with Azure SQL. So if you're using Azure SQL, there was several things with their general availability updates, public preview updates, and other SQL managed features. So I'm not going over all of those, but there were quite a few updates to Azure SQL. So if you're using Azure SQL, I would definitely jump on that, check those out, and see what's important to you. The biggest thing that I saw was that the public preview of Azure Quota, the Azure Quota REST APIs to manage server limits. So this is actually a huge deal. If you've ever run a SaaS on one of the public clouds, I didn't actually know Azure didn't have this before now. One of the things that you can do is automatically managing your quotas for accounts. So sometimes you even automatically manage accounts. And when you do that, you can also automatically manage service limits so that you can pre-warm areas and things like that. So this can be a very big deal if you're starting to push the boundaries of what a single account can do. So yeah. Another thing that caught my eye was the Azure Bastion now supports shareable links. So basically, this allows you to use Azure Bastion without actually access to the console Azure Bastion, or to share that with somebody, that access to them. So I'm not exactly sure how that would be useful, but again, I don't use Azure as a day-to-day driver, so that might just be my ignorance and not anything. It seemed like an interesting thing that could help. So I know last time we were talking about how they deprecated TLS 1.1, but it won't be deprecated for another year. They now have the general availability of TLS 1.3 with Application Gateway, so that's good. You get a little bit more security. You should always try to be using the latest and the greatest. All right, so that was it for Azure. Was there anything else in Azure that you guys saw that you thought would be interesting? Rubber Cable says, because you can charge per call and accidentally rack up a bill. Was that for the quota REST APIs? I'm assuming that was. So the service quota limits is basically, it's there to protect you. And protect Azure from somebody that's not going to bill or pay for something that you used. So if you guys don't know what the quota system is, basically, when you join Azure, you can't instantiate 300 servers. They just won't let you. I don't know. It's probably something like 10 VMs. And you have to actually request for more quotas if you want them. And that's a pretty standard thing throughout most of the clouds. If the managed service runs on Windows or Linux, I have no idea. I don't know. I wonder. That's actually a pretty good question to ask. Wonder if the Azure SQL managed service runs on Windows or Linux. I would guess that a large part of Azure runs on Linux. That would be my guess. But that's me guessing. It would be so much easier to get developers for, right? Who writes massive services in Windows? I guess Microsoft does. So never mind. I'm an idiot. I don't know why I would be pondering this. Let's move on to GCP. GCP had a abysmal 2 weeks of news. There's literally nothing here except, hey, Apogee has become named a leader, and Connected Story has built end-to-end creative management platform on Google Cloud. It's pretty abysmal. So, yeah. We can go over. And then the week prior to that, because we were covering 2 weeks of news here. Yeah, all the .NET peeps. I wasn't thinking about that. I'm an idiot. So there wasn't really much. I couldn't find anything. They were pretty quiet. They're probably busy laying off people. We'll get into more of that later. AWS. actually released quite a bit. Now, AWS has reInvent this next week. This whole next week is reInvent, so I expect to see a lot. And maybe some of this was pre-released to the hype of reInvent. So AWS Identity and Access Management now supports multiple form factor authentication devices. That's actually pretty cool. And this is for root account users, so you can use a MFA device to secure that, and it is a good security best practice. Amazon EventBridge now supports enhanced filtering capabilities. Pretty cool. Amazon RDS now supports general purpose GP3 storage volumes. So GP3 volumes are some of their latest ones and allow you to go up to 64 terabytes of data, quite a bit. And they allow you to scale up to 64,000 IOPS. Now, it is at additional cost, and it is expensive if you really are trying to go with that IOPS. But if you need it, it actually now supports it, so that's pretty good. And it's now GA. Amazon Managed Grafana now supports connection to data sources hosted in Amazon Virtual Private Cloud. So, I didn't actually know this. I've not actually used Amazon Managed Grafana, but it now supports direct connectivity to data sources hosted in a VPC. I didn't imagine that it would have been released without this feature. So I guess this is huge because I feel like this is the minimum requirement for a managed Grafana. I mean, what else? What other data am I getting from it? I don't understand this one. I read through it trying to understand if I was missing something. I don't feel like I'm missing something, so I feel like Amazon Managed Grafana was not usable prior to this. And it goes on. Amazon Managed Grafana now supports virtualization of the Prometheus Alert Manager rules and new config APIs. So, yeah. Big updates to Grafana in AWS. So if you're using Amazon Managed Grafana, definitely go check those out. Probably the biggest thing that I saw for Azure or AWS was AWS Secrets Manager now supports the rotation of secrets as often as every few hours. So I believe before this it was 24 hours, and they brought it down to 2 or 3 hours. They don't actually, that's what it is. They don't actually tell you. They say every few hours. I couldn't find an actual, this is how often we support it. The nice thing is this is at no additional cost, so this is just a base of using Secret Manager. So if you are using AWS Secret Manager, I feel like that is fairly good. And that's it for our standard 3 clouds. But as you all know, I try to watch all the other ones. We have some Kubernetes related stuff as well, but before we get into the Kubernetes and open source project news, we are going to get into what Cloudflare's been doing. Been doing some stuff. I really wish, and if a Cloudflare person ever talked to me, I know that they're trying to like make Cloudflare the easiest cloud and things like that, and going all in on this serverless stuff, which again, I'll talk about. Serverless is confusing to me. The thing that they don't provide some of the base things that I think would be really useful, like a VM, like the ability to provision a VM. So if your thing doesn't always fit just perfectly in serverless, they could still support it. You know, they don't have a managed Kubernetes. Even if it was just a fully managed Kubernetes, kind of like GCP's fully managed one, that would be fine. I just think that those would be really good to add. All right. So let's run through some of these things. So there is an update, SuperCloud set status, open alpha. So this is D1 launch. So what their D1 launch is basically, I'm going to say Postgres. It's an SQL database, but what they're looking to do is create a one of the fastest and most distributed is powerful, scalable, and world-beating performance. So I haven't actually tested the performance, but it's now in public alpha, so I'm trying to sign up to see how good it actually is. Some of that's hard because like you have to actually scale it to see its performance. And yeah, so we'll see how well it does, but I can't afford to spend too much money on scaling it too much. But this looks really interesting, and having a global data store is one of the challenging things. Having that accessible in the different areas and whatnot. So I'm actually really looking forward to watching this and seeing how this goes. They put in a ton of work. Their blog posts, they have several blog posts on it that goes into a bunch of the different things for it. And yeah, so I'm interested to know what you guys think. That being said, they also doubled down on their local development with workers. Miniflare meets Worker D. So we've talked about Worker D in the past, where they can run their serverless locally, but they're even working on that even more. So this is one of my biggest problems with like pure serverless. Usually it's somewhat proprietary, or if it's not proprietary, it's like this really complicated Kubernetes stack. So you're like Kubernetes, Istio, whatever the crap, I can't think of its name right now, that provides the actual serverless functions and all those things. And so then if you want to do it locally and actually test the whole system of your serverless thing locally, you can't really, and it gets really difficult. And this is why I think that has a developer experience issue. And the thing that I love here is Cloudflare sees that. Cloudflare seems to understand that. And so along with their developer tools, they are bringing a lot of stuff, or along with their serverless stuff, they're bringing a lot of developer tools to do it locally. Not, hey, you can have a hosted and pay us in the cloud solution. They're saying, hey, look, you can actually run these environments simply locally. And I think that's really important and really huge. It's a way other people aren't looking. The only other people that I see doing anything about this are saying, hey, look, we'll build the environment in the cloud and it will run in the cloud and you'll just pay us for these things. So I think this is important. Yeah, world-beating performance. I take it for a grain of salt. It's probably world-beating performance for SQL. But again, I don't know. And I would love to have the money to just spend testing these things, but I don't have that just yet. When I do, when I'm filthy rich, I will do that for you all, just to see what their performance are and how they stack up against each other, because I think that's really cool. It's like Cassandra. People ask me about Cassandra. I like Cassandra. Cassandra's great. But there's a point in scale, and I don't know exactly where that is. I don't have all the numbers for it, where Cassandra's rings start to make it where you have to buy a ton of machines, or you have to get a ton of latency, or both sometimes. And anyways, I'd love to have like some good hard numbers on that, but it's very difficult without actually expanding to that scale, which can get expensive really quickly. Anyways, so I love seeing this local development. Yes, like Vagrant, K3D, kind for Cloudflare. Yeah, I would say that that's kind of what it is. Kind of. Although some of the things like Worker D is actually the thing that runs the serverless in their cloud anyways. So some of it's not just like Vagrant, but yeah. Making static sites dynamic with Cloudflare D1. This, if you guys are interested in D1, which is their database, that's what they released. This is like a thing that further goes into, like, gives an example of using it, which I thought was actually really useful and relatable. So I definitely... Okay, so you guys are distracting, but you know what, Russell, you and I should make a bunch of horrible commercials. Like, I feel like just making a cliche tech commercials would be great. Would be very funny. Better than my content. Making static sites dynamic with Cloudflare D1. This was a really good article on how to actually use it and like maybe some of the cool things that you can do. I enjoyed reading. I didn't read the whole thing. I got like I got like right here. But if you're interested in using it, definitely go check that out. So this was a blog on just Cloudflare workers. If you're getting into those. All right, so this was an interesting post on the road to a more standards compliant worker API. I thought that this was very useful to you all. So I know that we've brought up the workers and some of these JavaScript runtimes, and workers is not a JavaScript, but it's a WebAssembly. And so definitely go check this out if you're interested in those types of things. I thought that it was really good. So yeah. The last thing from Cloudflare that I found really interesting is Cloudflare servers don't own IPs anymore. So how do they connect to the internet? I'm not going to spoil this for you all. I've always loved Cloudflare's blogs, and this is not a new release, so this is kind of getting into blog, but I put it with the Cloudflares because I was talking about Cloudflare. So this isn't a new service that they're releasing, but I think this is a really good article for just about anybody to read. One, because they clear up a lot of terminology that we just throw around, like, oh, you have an IP address and things like that. And so I think that this is a really good. I'm going to put it in. I'm going to make sure this is one of the links, and I'd love for you all to read it. I think it was really fantastic. All right, I'm going to read just a little bit, and then we're going to get into some Kubernetes cloud news. Let's see. CDN, dynamic caching, is always a pain, so it's their wheelhouse, I guess. AWS. Yeah. All right. So, are we ready for some around the internet? Actually, this is kind of Kubernetes-ish. Now, the next release of Kubernetes is coming up soon. I will do my release notes on those. So we'll cover that at another date, but that is coming up here soon. So with nothing else, we're going to talk about MLflow 2.0. MLflow is something I've been watching because of my general upsetness with Kubeflow. I love Kubeflow, but it has gotten really painful to use locally. Even in my null cloud that I've been running, it's been hard to configure and set up properly. You need a large team to support it. Basically, you need a team of SREs ready and willing to support it. MLflow looks to be gaining some momentum, and MLflow 2.0 was released. So I'm thinking about giving it a try to do some of our machine learning here on the Null channel. So I'm excited. Thought I'd let you guys know that was released. KubeCost now has open-sourced Opencost, an open source standard for Kubernetes cost monitoring. KubeCost has been around for a little while. And they just open sourced Opencost. So if you, like a lot of companies have right now, have started to look at cost cutting, starting to run Opencost could be the first step you take in understanding your costs and where they are and how you can update them and adjust for them. So I definitely say take a look at it, especially if you've been running or been asked to do some cost, like try to understand the cost and things like that. Opencost seems like a very good tool to start understanding that just a little bit better. So there's a lot of things, but yeah. Anyways. KubeCost has been around for a while, so Opencost is kind of like the open core of that. KubeCost was open source originally, then they got funding. I think that you can still use it for free as long as you don't make money or something. I'm not sure quite. And that's it for my cloud, I think. I think that is. Let me check really quickly. Oh no. I had one last thing. Oops. All right, one last thing is DigitalOcean welcomes Cloudways to the family. What is Cloudways? Cloudways was just some. It seemed like CSS and stuff to help them manage their uh their website and make websites. So that's interesting. I didn't dig into it very much. I just saw it, and I like to report on all the clouds if there's something interesting. So that is happening. All right, so now we can move on to the rest of the news. Now, if you've liked this, please go ahead and hit that like button. If you'd like to see me stream more, hopefully that's coming in December. I worked really hard this last 2 weeks on building a Rust class for you all. Hopefully it's going to be in. I didn't get to recording it this week. I did get to rewriting it, but I'm working really hard on that. So I'm hopefully doing my part in helping everybody level up their skills in the future, as this economy looks like it could be really bad for a little while. So I'm doing that, and so let me know if yeah. Anyways, that being said, I'm also going to start streaming some of this stuff as well. Like I said, I'm going to do it Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's probably going to be Tuesdays and Thursday nights. So that probably counts out a lot of you guys, but I might do some Saturday mornings where we're going to write some software and we're going to work on some of these projects together, because I have to do that anyways to do it like when I'm doing it for a video. So you might as well stream it if you guys are interested in seeing some of that. And yeah. All right. This is one I find interesting. Windows has finally dropped the preview label for version for Windows subsystem for Linux. This is really cool. I'm building a PC right now. Maybe one of the ugliest PCs known to mankind. It is just magnificently ugly. I set out to build a unique PC. And let me tell you, this PC is unique beyond anyone's wildest dreams. And it's not a good thing. It's really not a good thing. It's ugly. It's ugly. But it's what I built because I wanted a PC where I could stream from it and code on it. Now, that being said, I'm looking at using Windows Subsystem for Linux because streaming from Windows is actually easier than from Linux. It might not work, and I might abandon it. But I want to try. I'm going to try it. I'm going to try to just use Windows first. Now, I have a drive. I have an NVMe drive in it to install Linux on. But I'm not going to install Linux at the very beginning because I want to try Windows Subsystem for Linux and see if I can make a good developer's experience. After like 3 months, then I'll report. And I'll tell you if I've installed Linux on the other drive and dual boot now, or whether I'm just going to stick it out. Dude, this PC is brutal. No RGB because I was like, I gotta go unique. So how do I do unique? Well, it cannot have one light on it. And so then I was like, how can I make it not just a black void then? And so I tried to do that with like some light wood, and that's just a catastrophe. You'll see it. You'll see pictures. Follow me on Twitter if you want. I have posted some pictures. There'll be a new picture of it tonight because I think it's going to be fully assembled tonight, and it's ugly. It's going to sit right back here inside the live stream probably. It's hideous. It's hideous. Anyways, Windows Subsystem for Linux. So I'm going to try it, and I'll let you guys know. I'll make a video on it. Something I found interesting was Sapling source control that's user-friendly and scalable. Now, I read a lot on Sapling, and what I found was that it seems to be a close to Git source control that is built for people that want massive monorepos. Now, I think monorepos have a developer experience issue. Now, maybe Sapling brings a new way of looking at it, so it's so geared towards a monorepo, all the tools are in place when using it, that monorepo thing doesn't actually have a problem with it. So I don't like the monorepo, but maybe with something like Sapling, you could do it. So it's definitely something to check out. It's interesting. But it is a new Git compatible source control client. So anyways, now they have a backend that supposedly scales with the monorepo. So there's like a virtualized storage layer that they do with that, which is interesting. That has not been open source yet. So So you can't get the full experience of Sapling and what Meta is doing with it just yet, which is kind of a shame. But they said that they're working on open sourcing that. So I'm looking forward to seeing when I can get that virtualized file system. Because to me, if I was going to use this, I wouldn't use Sapling itself. Because if Sapling is just using Git on the back end, like maybe if I wanted to use a monorepo, but it really looks or sounds like it shines when you compare all that together. And then I'd be more interested in taking a look. No mahogany. I didn't have any mahogany laying around. I used, so the PC is all mounted to maple because the maple is like a whitish wood that went really well with the black that everything else is. And then the stand is walnut. So I'm a cheapskate. I spent money on the PC, not on the wood. It's still bad. It's so bad because like I dabble in woodworking. I'm a decent woodworker, but the problem is that wood was not meant to mount PCs to. And so like I have a bajillion custom 3D printed parts to just mount a motherboard to wood. I didn't do a good job. I wasted a ton of time, and it's not good. It's not good. It's ugly. It's yeah. Anyways, we're moving on, but I will post a picture. Walnut is a beautiful wood, and I just destroyed a beautiful piece of walnut. It's destroyed. It looks like running buffaloes. Literally, the legs look like running buffaloes. I can't get it out of my head. I really hate this. The monstrosity I built. Okay, sorry. I will move on. So we're going to talk a little bit about job cuts. Again, I'm trying to do my parts to help with the job cuts. If I know of any jobs, I will post them. There are still plenty of companies hiring at this moment, but there are a lot of companies cutting jobs as well. So Amazon has started cutting jobs in Alexa. I found this stat on it. Oh no. Yeah, this stat. Amazon Alexa is on pace to lose 10 billion this year. 10 billion. That's outstanding. Outstanding. All right. Anyways, so that being said, I would imagine that the Alexa unit could start cutting jobs. That being said, that it seems to... Lumberyard, their game engine, I'm pretty sure is dead. They bought CryEngine, but they didn't buy all of it. They just bought like a version of it. And so like CryEngine is now way better again than it. And I don't know. Lumberyard was stupid. Amazon has made some stupid bets. Anyways, Google seems to be in the same spot at this point. Google prepares to lay off 10,000 employees. It seems like they're wanting 10,000 people to just quit working there. 10,000 is roughly 1%. I think that they hire like 150,000. So it's maybe a little less than 1% of their workforce. So it's still a lot of people, probably a lot of decent engineers. There was also some people saying like they were doing a little bit more aggressive of performance reviews to identify the low performers. So anyways, that being said, I am doing what I can. I'm going to try to do a lot in December for educational purposes. I haven't released a video in a little while, and that's because I'm working really hard on some really great educational pieces for you all. They'll probably all hit starting in December. So yeah, I hope they help. I hope they help. All right, let's move on to something a little bit more. No, this isn't actually better. Basically, Kite AI coding pulled down to earth because our 500,000 developers would not pay us to use it. Basically, they couldn't get people to pay for it, but they had a lot of people using it, and that's sad. That's really sad. I feel bad for these people because they've obviously poured a lot of love into the product, and it seemed like if you have 500,000 people, 500,000 active developers, it feels like you should have been able to get some people to pay for it. And this is probably a good reminder for all of us that if we find something that's useful and we want it to stick around, we should probably pay for it. Yeah, that type of attitude in the workplace can destroys teamwork in the workplace. Absolutely. Performance reviews need to be done really, really carefully. I like that Google was trying to just let people leave. Unfortunately, in a bad economy, sometimes that can be hard because people then hunker down because they're like, well, I'm not leaving because the economy is bad, or it's hard to find a job. That's another really good point that Russell's making. It's really hard to know at this point of how many people that are getting let go are engineers versus. I haven't found specific numbers. Obviously, Twitter really let go a lot of engineers, but Google employs a ton of people that aren't engineers. And so I know that this is engineering focused, and I honestly don't know the number of engineering people that are being let go. So I don't have that breakdown, and I haven't found it. And I would love to know if somebody finds that information. Okay, so there was a bunch of improvements, performance improvements in Visual Studio 2022. I haven't used Visual Studio for a long time, but I'm about to be running Windows, so I might try it again. Does it support Rust? Does Visual Studio support Rust? That would be interesting. I don't know. I haven't tried it in a long time. Google Cloud partners with India. I found this funny. Startup Super Gaming to offer gaming engine to developers. Look, after Stadia, no game developer in their right mind will touch a Google product again. When you have teams that spent months of time, they could have been developing a game, to supporting your platform, to pull it out from underneath them, they will never. I don't know why. I don't know why they wasted time on this. Not at all. And I think that's it. That's it. Actually, I don't know why I went back to this. That's all. Did I miss something, everyone? If I did, let me know. Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the Discord. And I'll make sure to bring it up. The other thing that we have, the last thing here, is a bunch of open source. Not all of it's open source. Some of it's just free material to help you level up. Now, like I said, I'm going to make a video of this, and it's probably going to be released sometime in January. It's going to be titled something like all the great educational content that you could need other than this YouTube channel. I don't know. I'm terrible at clickbait. But yeah, let's go ahead and cover it. So one that I found, actually, I'm just going to wait just a second to see if anybody has said anything. Sometimes I move on too quickly. I need to come up with a good way to have some pauses so the chat can catch up. I'm not sure that I do this very well. I am not a good streamer. All right, here we go. 2023's list of best open source or free places where you can learn and grow. All right, this one I found pretty cool. Basically, this is a Kubernetes learning path, and there's a bunch of different things that blog articles. It's just basically a collection of learning things. Now, obviously, this person doesn't have my stuff. Probably going to have to make a pull request to insert my videos on it in here, but these are actually pretty cool. I actually found this through the networking. I was looking up some networking stuff, and these are pretty good networking ones. So obviously it doesn't have it all done. It's still in progress, but what I found was pretty cool. And all of these links will be in the description of the video. So if you're wanting these, definitely check it out. Should we be worried about more layoffs in the coming recession in tech? I don't know. I can't tell you. I don't think that anybody in their right mind can tell you exactly. it's very difficult to tell how big it is. You have some people that are saying this will be worse than 2000, and 2000 had a very big tech bubble burst. The only thing that we can do to protect ourselves is to be the best that we can. At least that's my motto. Is the better I can be, the more valuable I am to maintain as an employee. The more likelihood I'll have an opportunity to do something. Now, that being said, I would love in the future if I could do more for everyone. And that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to do this December. I'm probably not going to do Advent of Code, only because I'm going to be trying to do everything else. And so Advent of Code, I won't have the time for. But if there's a particularly interesting one and we want to do it on stream, I'd be happy to do that. Especially if that would be helpful. So I can't tell you if we should be worried. I can just try to help us be prepared. All right. So check this out if you want to. This was recommended to us by our very own community, was Hacking the Cloud. I never knew of this. This seems kind of interesting. Hacking the Cloud is an encyclopedia of the tactics and techniques that offensive security professionals can use in their next cloud. So if you're looking to get into security, if you're looking to understand that a little bit better, you should check this out. This has a ton of stuff from Docker, Terraform, Kubernetes, and whatnot to just your standard ones as well. So yeah. This was actually kind of really interesting. You can see like they have AWS, Azure, GCP, JavaScript. It's pretty cool. So thank you for showing me this. So if you're wanting to level up in security, again, my video in earlier is going to like give some roadmap paths, and for each roadmap, like for security, these are the best ones that I found. This one we're just kind of going through them because I'm lazy. Okay, professional programming. I actually really like this one. Again, I'm not going to say that I agree with everything that's in every single one of these, but a lot of these have a lot of great stuff that you can take away from. And if you critically think, even if you might disagree on some of the things, the act of critically thinking on them is really good. This has a ton of information from hardware to basic software engineering, and clean code and things like that. So it has a lot, especially this one I found if you're more just getting started and you don't know what it means to be a professional engineer. If you're a junior engineer or whatnot and you don't understand what separates you from a senior engineer because you know some complicated algorithms better, this is a really good place to start. Coding Interview University. This was recommended to me by somebody. I don't remember who. I apologize. But I looked over it. It seemed to have a decent set of things to go over a coding interview. You all know me. I hate coding interviews, but a lot of times we have to do them, so you might as well be prepared for them. All right. Every programmer should know. This is a pretty interesting one. That has it's basically a list of other places that you can go, but they have it out into algorithms. So if you're wanting to learn more on algorithms, if you think that your weakest thing is algorithms, check out algorithms. If your weakest thing is data structures, check that out. Numbers, strings, latency, time, memory, distributed system, regex. This is everyone's weakest thing, is regex. Everyone has a problem with regex. They just don't like to admit it. Security, usability, SEO. Okay, who cares about SEO? Architecture, code design, engineering philosophy. It has a bunch of links for the things that you want to learn. I thought that it was pretty fantastic. Some are easier than others, like more beginner level, like learning to use Git. So I think that this repository actually has a lot of different things for a lot of different people, so that there's a lot of different things that could be useful to you, from a beginner, how to use Git with GitHub, to more advanced things like the system design and security. And so anyways, I haven't gone through everything in this list, but a lot of the things were really good that I have touched. Another one that I've seen, but I haven't actually used myself, but I see that they make a lot of good stuff on YouTube as well. probably one of the biggest competitors on YouTube to my content for sure, is this Free Code Camp. Now, they do a lot of stuff in JavaScript, which I don't do, so I'm not really a competitor. They're way better than I am. But they release a lot of stuff. They have it in a Git repo here in the Free Code Camp, and they have a lot of YouTube videos that go along with it. It's fantastic stuff, so check it out. Now, this is geared more towards beginners, so if you're not a beginner, I'm not sure that it applies to the rest of us. That sounds snobbish. I have to come up with a better way of saying that. But if you're not a new beginner, it's probably not as applicable. I would say it's more junior engineer to mid engineer content, but it's fantastic. The free programming books is another great repository that I think is just a must-have out there. It is a list of books that are free that are out there for you to download. So, yeah, in a bunch of different languages. Oh, there's a variety of different, we can go to English here really quickly. There's a variety. So let's see, English by subject, and you can go through and see the different ones from artificial intelligence and blockchain, a whole bunch of them here. So you can find the subject that you're interested in and basically drill down into reverse engineering. I would love to do some series where we take like 3 months and dig into one of these subjects and like go through some of these things. Something maybe we can do starting next year at some point, yeah, make ourselves a little bit better. The next one here, this is actually, I really, really like this. I don't want to underscore how much these books, they're like actual full books. Some of them are short books, but I mean, even a 20-page book is pretty awesome. So, and they have a lot of good stuff. The Coding Interview University, this is really about focusing on that coding interview. If that's your weak point, which it's definitely my weak point, I like live coding. I forget how to write an if statement. I'm like, at the moment of live coding, TypeScript, Rust, Go, and C++ all combined into one amalgamation of a language, and it's horrifying. But anyways, the Coding Interview University is really geared towards that. So if that's your struggle, if that's where you think you need help, this is a really nice place to start. This is a pretty good blog on some Git repositories. It actually covers a lot of the ones that I already had, so I'm not sure. There's actually one that I haven't seen. I thought I had this earlier up. Is the System Design Primer. Okay, yeah, it's this one. This one should have been. This one is a pretty famous one. The System Design Primer is a pretty famous one. I hope you all know it. But basically, it's about designing the big systems, your applications, how they talk and communicate together. If you haven't heard of this one, it's pretty famous for a lot of good reasons. It's the basic foundations of understanding. So definitely, I will make sure this is on the top of the list when I leave the comments. Here's the computer science from the this is the open source software. I forget what the SU is. Something University. It's a lot of free open source society university. Sorry. It's a fairly good path for beginners, though. Again, for beginners. All right. This was also recommended by the community, was the Byte Go newsletter. It has a bunch of different architecture, REST, GraphQL. It's actually pretty fantastic. I didn't know about this until, I believe it was Russell that recommended it. Thanks for recommending it. This looks really cool. If you're wanting to get more into architecture, these are more advanced. If you're newer, I wouldn't necessarily jump into, well, some of these. It depends on which one. The Twitter architecture versus 2012 and 2022. To really understand the nuance, you probably need to be a little bit more advanced. Even if you wanted to care. Although, it's good to know that anyways. Even if you don't understand everything, just to have that permeating in your mind, thinking on it, thinking why that might have changed is probably good. Another one brought up by the community was grep.app. Pretty cool. Search across 500,000 Git repos. I didn't know that this existed. This is pretty cool. So if you're trying to look for something to help you, check this out next time. And then the developer handbook. It's a pretty good base developer handbook. Now, this one I almost didn't include, but it's actually really good. It is very much for this company. I forget what company. It's AppTension. It's very much them and what they do, and it's their developer handbook. But if you read through it and understand it, they have a bunch of good content here. They talk about their Python, and you should never use Python in the back end. That's just a no-no. We can all agree on that. You shouldn't do it. There's so many reasons you shouldn't do it. Don't even get me started. But that being said, they go through best practices, databases, but they also explain it really well and why they do the things that they do. And if you go through it with that in mind, it's actually a really great learning experience. Oh, thank you. I worked really hard. I spent like an hour going through the ones that I've starred and follow myself, or the ones that I used like 2 years ago, plus just searching around on the internet because, like I said, I'm trying to really help because, this is what I can do. This is how I can help if people are losing their jobs and their livelihoods and need help. This is what I can do to help. This is the part that I can play. So I'm trying to play my part. I will make this into a video, though, going a little bit more in detail on each one of them, because I was also asked to do that with the Kubernetes tools that we went over. So I already started working on that video. Those will release in January sometime. I already have the scripts kind of started and working out. I just got to record them, do the editing. The editing is what takes me a long time. And I'll have those for like 2023 tools you need to know for Kubernetes and 2023 top educational material you need to read to level up your game or something like that. I'll have to come up with a clickbait title. Oh, generally looking at career progression frameworks will be useful. Okay, I can add that. This is great. Content. Great content. Getting those. You can search online for many. Yeah. No, that's a fantastic idea. Okay, I will add that to it. Let me actually pull that up right now to type that. I will have to think about whether that's a separate video itself or to add it to the learning. Like, do I tie it into the learning? Like, hey, if this is your next step, here's here's the repositories and things you should be studying and researching. Or do I just make it a separate one and let you make the connection? Because I don't know what the appropriate length of video is. I find too long. Some of my long videos are some of my best performing videos, but then also people complain about them being too long. So I don't really know what the solution is because I don't know. Let me put it this way. I don't give anybody career advice on being a YouTuber. That is something you won't find me doing. Also, I want to know what you guys think about. Obviously, I'm not getting my educational content. So next. For tomorrow, before I lose you all, please don't leave. Before I lose you, next week, please let me know what your favorite cloud, it doesn't have to be a CLI, but cloud open source project is. So I'm looking for tools that you use to interact with your clouds, like to actually do stuff with your clouds. This could be like a CLI tool that you use, like EKS CLI. And that's probably one that I will show off. but I'm looking to compile a list of tools that people might not know about that can really make their lives easier or faster in the cloud. So if you have a set of tools like that and would like to share, please share. And that's what we're going to be doing. I'm going to make a live stream chat for that right now. Thread for favorite open source cloud tools. It doesn't have to be a CLI. That was just my example. Yeah, so hit it up there in the general live stream chat. Would multiple videos how to get promoted to X where X... Oh, I like that. I like that. Russell, you should really start a YouTube channel, Russell. Because I think that you would do this better than I would. One second. Do you give me permission to use yours without the X? Your title. I like it. There we go. I can also tell you what I've seen as well. Like, not only do I know what a lot of, like, you're right, large companies have those things published, I've also done it through companies as well. So I can give some personal things as well as what I'm looking for as well in engineers as they're moving up through the ranks. So I think that could be really good. And please let me know if there's other things that I can do like that would help, that you generally struggle with, that maybe we can work together as a community. I don't have all the answers. And I think that's actually important. I like people that will say that they don't have all the answers. I think it's really important to stay humble, because then you'll learn. You might say sorry a little bit more. You'd be banned within 3 videos. Okay, so maybe not the best. Anyways, yeah, so I am really working hard on getting my computer and everything set up to stream. I actually made a small mistake in organizing some of this. I wanted to stream, let's see, wait, what is today's date? Let's see. Let's see. Oh man, I wanted to, like, December 1st to be my first streaming day. Because that is a Thursday. I don't think it's going to be, and I don't know where I'm going to stream yet. I don't know whether it's going to be YouTube or Twitch, or maybe I'll try to just stream to both. Not sure how all that's going to work, but we're going to try to work it out some, and we're going to see how that all works. So anyways, I like the idea. Thanks everyone for joining. You guys are fantastic. Absolutely love you all. And yeah, I don't have anything else. So I'm going to get going. I'm going to let you guys get going. I'll get these links in the description of the video right away. And follow me on Twitter if you want to see a picture of my PC later today. Don't look at it too closely before you go to bed, because that's horrifying and it might terrify you.